Hello and welcome to The Personal Touch. My name is Toni Sulkowski and I am the host for this show. This special edition of The Personal Touch is a show about how various nonprofit organizations in Washington County are reaching out to help others both within our community and outside of it. These organizations also depend upon volunteers that have the time, talents, and the means to provide a helping hand to those who find themselves in difficult situations. Today's show will highlight a unique consortium of local organizations that have banded together to bring awareness to the abuse of the underserved and the voiceless in Washington County. Child abuse, elder abuse, domestic abuse, and animal abuse are often connected and found together in many home situations. The Compassion Care Initiative strives to use the power of the human and animal connection to bring awareness and healing to this tragic epidemic. The Compassion Care Initiative partners include Casa for Kids of Washington County, the Washington Area Humane Society, Genesis of Pittsburgh, the Domestic Violence Services of Southwestern Pennsylvania, and the Cranberry Psychological Center, who all work with each other. This year, they have a campaign to educate all of us about abuse. Each one of these entities has its own speciality to address and to help those being abused. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our first guest, James Shamlin from the Cranberry Psychological Center and Kelley Proudfit from the Washington Area Humane Society. Welcome. It's so nice to have you both here.
Thank you.
And I understand that the two of you can help us with the whole start for how this initiative came to be. So I want you to just start by maybe giving a brief history of how you got together and how this thing has blossomed over the years.
Sure. Thank you for having us here, Toni, and to the Township of Peters and also the school district as well. So I became the head of my organization, which proudly has been serving the greater Pittsburgh community for the past 30 years through Cranberry Township, Fox Chapel, and most importantly today, McMurray. Mm-hmm. And so over the course of that 30 years, we've always served the community through mental health, through extensive services that we provided, through psychotherapy, psychiatry, but we also always been a good community partner. About 6 years ago, I ended up starting to work in the McMurray office as a psychotherapist and as a clinical director. And at that time, I knew it was very important to get into Washington County and start to play a little bit more of a part in what we could do on behalf of serving the community for the nonprofits that serve the community to the greater good. At that time, I reached out to the Washington Area Humane Society and had the great pleasure of meeting Kelley Proudfit. And at that time, what we discussed was the possibility of how can we as a business and organization help out the nonprofits like Washington Area Humane Society. At that time, we discussed maybe putting together an event that can help raise awareness for the four-legged beings of the community that are in need of help. So we talked about forming a farm-to-table event. But through the course of that conversation with Kelley, who's just very dynamic and quite the go-getter, we ended up discussing the possibility of bringing together a coalition of nonprofits to serve not only each other, but to serve the voiceless, the abused, the neglected within the community. Because we know as an organization, we can only be as healthy as a community as we serve, those people and four-legged animals in need.
So, about what year did you two get together?
2016.
16.
Oh,
yeah.
so it's been almost
been
6 years.
A while, yes.
That you started.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you reach out to Washington Area Humane Society in particular? Where did that connection come from?
Good question. I'm big into rescues and have a whole rescue at home for myself. We already created a wine and whiskers event through Butler County Humane Society, a year prior. And at that time, I went over to the Washington Area Humane Society, and I walked in there, and what I saw was a very dedicated staff, very devoted to the animals, and the animals getting the best possible care they needed, but definitely expanded beyond their walls at the time in a very old facility that needed a lot of love and attention, and need a lot of attention by the community to help eventually what would be, creating its new home over the course of several years, which Kelley has been really the instrumental in.
So Kelley, you get approached about this initiative, and what was your initial reaction?
Well, it was wonderful when James walked in. It was just nice to have somebody from the community who was so dedicated to animals. What I had been seeing in my new position as director at the Humane Society was it wasn't just the animals suffering, it was other people in the home suffering. Children were being abused, domestic violence was going on, and there's definitely a correlation between all the different types of abuse. So that's when I approached James and said, why don't we expand this greater? There's not a ton of collaboration at the time with other like-minded nonprofits, and that's when we agreed to create this collaboration and call it the Compassion Care Initiative. And the whole point of it is to bring awareness to the public, what our missions are, but also how animal abuse, child abuse, domestic and elder abuse are all interconnected. So if an animal's being abused in a child, there's probably animals being abused in a home, there's probably a child being abused. It's all interconnected. So that was our goal. It was really an education campaign and trying to bring in new partners and new donors and new advocates for our missions across all the partners.
So how did you reach out to the different nonprofits?
So we started with Casa for Kids. We had a little bit of a relationship with them. We really saw a big correlation between child and animal abuse. So each year of the initiative, we added another nonprofit partner. So it was kind of a slow process. So this is our 6th year?
Absolutely.
And so now we've got 5 partners after 6 years. So we hope to just continue to expand it. The more partnerships with nonprofits that we have similar missions, the more we can come up with solutions for the community to help these underserved, voiceless people and animals in the community.
So right now, your groups that are members are?
We have Casa for Kids of Washington County, Genesis of Pittsburgh, and our newest member is Domestic Violence of Southwestern Pennsylvania. So we're excited about that, and we're already thinking of ways to collaborate. For instance, if there's a woman in an abuse shelter who has a pet, a lot of the shelters don't allow animals. We can do an emergency board for their animals till they can get back on their feet. So we're looking at different ways that our nonprofits can collaborate and work together to come up with solutions to help these people and animals in most need in the county.
And so your purpose is, one of your purposes is not only collaborating among each other to help the people that you're serving, but also to educate everybody else about what your initiative is and what your individual groups do, correct?
And how you can help. You know, all of our organizations need volunteers. All of our organizations need support and advocates out in the community. So that is probably the main purpose of this initiative, for sure, just to bring awareness, because especially after COVID, we've seen just an increase in spike and abuse and neglect across all the different sectors. And our missions are probably the most vital they've ever been, trying to help the animals and people that really don't have a voice right now.
So what we're going to do is we're going to learn a little bit more about exactly what each of your groups do and what your collaboration is leading to here coming up in the next couple of weeks. And James, I want to thank you for being here from Cranberry Psychological Services and for sharing how all of this came to be. And I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about each of these groups and how we can involve everybody else.
Yeah, James has been just such a positive force, always willing to help us, lead us, come up with new ideas. So he's just kind of a godsend to our organizations.
That's great.
Walking in and just anyone from the community can make a big difference. So
great.
It's been wonderful.
We're glad you got shipped out here to Washington County.
Yes, we are too.
So next up, we're going to have our Executive Director, Kelley Swift from Casa, and Kelley Proudfit will stay with us as the Executive Director of the Washington Area Humane Society, and Crystal Turner, who's the Executive Director of Genesis, is going to provide us, all of them, with more information about their respective charities and what to expect from their unique partnership. So let's take a brief commercial break. Welcome back. And it's my pleasure to welcome the 3 executive directors who are currently members of the Compassion Care Initiative. Right now, Crystal Turner and Kelley Swift and Kelley Proudfit are going to share how their organizations are doing, what they do, and what services they provide from our area. And also then we'll talk a little bit about their special collaborative efforts that they have going for them. So right now I'm going to start with Kelley from Casa for kids. And Kelley, if you would start out by telling us a little bit about what your organization does and its purpose here.
Sure. So Casa for Kids, Casa stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate. And so we've been here in Washington County for 20 years. And we train community members who come from all walks of life to be assigned on an abuse and neglect case and to serve as a best interest advocate for a child who has experienced abuse or neglect.
And so do you utilize volunteers in that process?
We do. So all of our advocates are community volunteers. They commit to serving for 18 months or longer. And they do things like visit with the child once a month where they live, gather all the information about the child. They make a written report for the judge, and then they go to hearings on that child's behalf and with that child to help give that child a voice in the court system.
And just as a little side note, we've done a prior personal touch show on Casa. So if people really want to get in depth and learn more about the organization, that's available on past episodes of this show. Okay, Crystal, how about telling us a little bit about Genesis of Pittsburgh?
Genesis of Pittsburgh has been around for almost 50 years. In fact, next year is our 50th anniversary. Something I would like your viewers to know about Genesis is that we're not income-based, because so many people make just a little bit too much to qualify for other services. So they can use Genesis services if you're pregnant or have young children. You can come in, get diapers, wipes, formula, clothing, any of your essentials. Now, if you want some larger items, we have a Baby Bucks program. You take parenting classes and you earn so many Baby Bucks per every class. You can get new car seats, crib, mattresses, and also gently used items like swings and things like that. That way we know everyone has the parenting education they need and the best, safest equipment.
And do you utilize volunteers in your program?
Oh, absolutely, because so much of our clothing is lightly used, donated items, so we always are needing volunteers to help sort with mailings and or help with parties. There's many things we can use volunteers for.
Okay. And I'll come back to each one of you because I have a question for you that brought to my mind. But so Kelley at Washington Area Humane, do you want to tell us a little bit about your organization as well?
Sure. Our mission is to provide safety, food, and shelter for the homeless animals of Washington County. We intake about 750 dogs and cats a year. We also have a full vet team that does low-cost clinics, low-cost spay-neuter. We do about 1,200 surgeries on site a year. And we have a humane officer that responds to 350 abuse calls that we investigate a year. Last year, I think she prosecuted 80 people and took over 100 animals. So we're in court a lot, fighting for animal rights, animal abuse laws. So that's just a little bit of what we do. We have about 350 active volunteers as well, helping us with cleaning, events, anything you can imagine at the shelter. We have a newer facility in 84, Pennsylvania, next to the Spring House. And we adopt out nearly 600 animals a year.
So that was my question about where you were located, so you read my mind and took care of that. And Kelley, where does Casa operate from?
Yes, our offices are on Chestnut Street in Washington. We are about 2 blocks past the courthouse, so we're close to be able to accompany volunteers for their hearings.
Okay. And then Crystal, how about Genesis? Where are you located?
Our Washington office is real close to Casa. We're just around the corner at 85 East Maiden Street. And when I tell people, when they want to know where we're located, it's right across the street from Salvation Army.
Okay. So you're all pretty close in proximity together. And so now you've come together over the years, as Kelley has explained to us, and James, to form this collaborative initiative to help abused, whether it's elder abuse or domestic abuse, animal abuse, children being abused. In this collaborative, what kind of a role do you play in together? Like, what's your purpose together in a mission? How do you work together?
I think this year our big focus, and in previous years, this is our 6th year, we really want to bring awareness to our missions and to what's happening in the county. So it really is an awareness campaign, education campaign on what's going on in this county and the suffering and the needs of the voiceless in this county. So I would say that would probably be the number one thing, but secondary, it really gives us an opportunity to work together. And, you know, a lot of nonprofits are in silos kind of doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. And we really want to think outside the box, think of how we can work cross-agency. If our humane officer goes into a house where an animal's being abused and they see children that are being neglected, we can cross-reference and you know, notify the proper people and work with these other nonprofits to help bring resources to all the people suffering in that home.
Okay, so how about as far as Genesis is concerned? Where do you fit into their picture?
So many times when people think of Genesis, oh, you come and you get your baby essentials, but oftentimes when we're having a conversation with a woman or they're taking a parenting class, we find out they're abused. Mm-hmm. And you know, we all love our animals, and if it's a situation where they're not leaving because they're scared that something's going to happen to their pet, or if sometimes we feel like, well, maybe this child needs some representation, it just is a way to just surround our clients with every type of need they have.
Yeah, and domestic violence of Southwestern PA couldn't be here today, but they're our newest partner, and similar collaboration with them, helping women. They may need to leave their abuser, but 70% of women won't leave their abuser because they have nowhere to take their pets with them to a shelter. So how can we, you know, work together, and we could board their pet temporarily till they can get back on their feet, because we don't want people staying in an abusive home if just because they are scared to leave their pet behind. So it's things like that, discussions we've had. There's no easy solutions for it all, but we're working on them.
Now, do you meet regularly as a group to talk and share, or informally, formally?
We've been meeting once a month for the majority of this year, planning for our event, planning for education opportunities, but also networking together and understanding the mission of other organizations and how we could work together to help the voiceless. And it's really Kelley and James's very forward thinking that in their invitation to our organization, to Genesis and to Domestic Services of Southwestern PA, to it's just in recognition that those issues are at work a lot of times in all of the areas where we're working. We often have cases of domestic violence. We often have cases that involve animal abuse as well as abuse of children. And a lot of services are needed to support children and families, the type that Genesis provides. So there's a lot of overlap in the work that we're doing.
That's incredible. I mean, it's something I didn't know about, and I've been a resident here my entire life, so it's nice to see all of you getting out of your own areas and working together and putting all of your talents together to benefit others. Yep. So you have a special awareness campaign coming up.
Yep.
And when is it taking place, and how can people get involved in becoming more aware of what's going on? I don't know who wants to start, or...
I mean, I can speak to that. So we have an Education Awareness Week. In previous years, we just did a big event to bring people together and hear speakers, but we decided to steer away from the event and do a week-long Education Awareness Week. So we have 9 sessions. I think 3 of them are Zooms. There's 5 in-person sessions. You can go to compassioncareinitiative.org to sign up. Everything is free. There's all sorts of topics. There's cat yoga, compassion fatigue workshop. There's one geared towards prosecutors and the police about the correlation between animal abuse, domestic abuse, and violence on women. So we really just want people to realize that there's resources out there. You could probably speak to the Genesis course that's being offered for grandparents.
It's going to be on Wednesday, November 2nd, and it will be at our Washington Center, 85 East Maiden Street, in person, obviously. This is to tell people about our Grand Family program. Right before the pandemic, I was getting a call real early in the morning, lots of calls, and it would be an elderly voice on the other side of the phone saying, my daughter, son just dropped off my grandchild. They're addicted, and I'm on a fixed income. I don't know what to do. Well, we always, we were in the business of babies and, pregnant ladies and families. So, but I kept getting them, and it was very upsetting. So we started a pantry for grand families, and that's grown. We can offer a lot of different services for them, and we want the people of Washington County to know about us as well.
Great. So there'll be a little teaching session on that. And that's an in-person session.
That is in person.
Okay.
And then Casa has a great session they're doing.
Oh.
So we're planning on a showing of the documentary Resilience, which is all about an ACEs study about adverse childhood experiences and how it affects your health later in life. And so we're going to be viewing the documentary and having a brief discussion. There'll be popcorn and some treats for everyone who comes. It is free. It'll be at the Rock Youth Center, which is on Pike Street in Houston. They have a large facility that can accommodate everyone and giving some space. We're going to do that on Halloween night from 6 to 8.
Now, Kelley, you mentioned that you have a website for your collaborative.
Yes.
CompassionCareInitiative.org, which we'll be posting here so people can see that. And when they go to the website, can they find out more information about all of these events and the Zooms?
Yeah, every single session's on there. There's a link to register. Registration's free. You could register day of. There's no cutoff. So the more the merrier. I think all the sessions can apply to all different types of people. Like I said, there's yoga for children at the shelter with kittens running around when you're doing yoga. So there's some fun things too, but most of it's, geared towards animal therapy, healing, and compassion fatigue, and just how to recognize different types of abuses, and the resilience training, so grandparents. So there's a lot of different stuff we're doing that week that's available.
On the website too, because I did go to look at it, there's information about each one of your services and organizations.
Yep.
Correct? So people can click on those links and go to that and find out more about your respective organizations and what's going on
And there's
there.
ways to donate individually on our website. So if there's an organization that strikes a chord with you and you can't come to any of these events or seminars, if you want to support our missions and this collaboration, there's an opportunity to do that on the website as well.
So if people want to get a little bit more education and know, they can go with a friend if they want to the in-person and encourage somebody to come with them.
Yep.
Or they can get online if they prefer that. And of course they can have as many people there as they want.
Or if you run a business or a hospital or anywhere where you feel like your staff are fatigued and either on the front line workers, it's been tough the past 2 years. The compassion fatigue training is wonderful. If you work for an organization that supports children and have had trauma, the resilience training and movie would be wonderful. So there's a lot of different things for different organizations.
And differences in people and what they are going through. So if they're actually being abused, they could even get on and get a little more information, as well as those who are caregivers or those who know people and want to know what they can do to help them
Domestic
out.
Violence of Southwestern PA, their session is different therapy techniques to deal with trauma and domestic abuse and violence, and they're having it's at Range Resources, and they're going to have some creative art therapy activities during their session, and just talking about self-help and ways to, deal with trauma and things going on in your life. So really positive information.
Well, great. So now we know a little bit more about each organization and what you're doing to educate others. We're going to take a brief commercial break, and we'll be right back to learn a little bit more about how people can get involved, either financially or through volunteerism. Okay?
Great. Thank you.
welcome back to this special show of The Personal Touch, where we're highlighting the Compassion Care Initiative in Washington County. And so far, our guests have been sharing with us what the purpose of the Compassion Care Group is and its local education and awareness efforts. We're going to continue our discussion right now by starting out and learning about, well, who's sponsoring this? Because you know there has to be some funding going on. So could you share a little bit with us, Kelley?
Sure. We've been blessed with our founding sponsor, who you met earlier, James Shamlin of Cranberry Psychological Center of McMurray. He was the spearheader behind this, and he's supported it for the past 5 years. So James is our founding sponsor. And then Range Resources, I think this is the 3rd year, they've been our presenting sponsor. So they've been wonderful supporting this cause. The Observer Reporter gave us a full-page ad in their newspaper and are sponsoring the event this year. And Washington Health Systems joined on. So those are wonderful sponsors, and we feel blessed that they're supporting this initiative.
That's great. So that way we can get these things actually presented and pay for them, to be quite honest with you. And Kelley, you're going to tell us a little bit more, I guess, about how people can start getting involved in volunteerism.
That's right. So on the last evening of the Week of Education, on Thursday, the first Thursday in November, we will be at the Ignite Business Center, which is on W&J's campus in downtown Washington. And all of the agencies that are involved in the Compassion Care Initiative will be there to speak to how volunteers can get involved with each of our agencies, and we'll have materials there about getting involved and some light refreshments, and it'll just be a good time to network with other people who want to be volunteering in our community.
So if they're interested in your group, they can actually show up to this event.
Correct.
And actually sign up in person.
Yes.
Correct? But beyond that, you probably rely on volunteers to help your organizations, which you shared earlier. How do volunteers reach out to each one of your individual organizations if they want to become involved? How about Genesis? How do you do that?
Genesis, they can go to our website, which is genesispgh.org, or they can call 412-766-5212, and there's a directory. They can talk to someone directly that way. One thing I'd like to say, like with all these organizations, there's something for everyone. Like there's some sort of volunteer opportunity for anyone. If you like to sort, we would love to have you. But there's other, if you want to walk a dog, you can do that as well.
How about yours?
The best way to get information about volunteering with Casa is to look at our website, which is casawashington.org. And at the bottom of the website page, there's a nice big red button that says volunteer. And click on that and it'll walk you through.
And we're the same. Our website, washingtonpashelter.org, there's a volunteer tab at the top. And we list all the different age requirements because we have, different types of animals. So we do have age requirements for different tasks, but it's all on there and you can sign up. We do a volunteer orientation, and when you complete that, you can come into the building and start volunteering.
So people can volunteer their time and their talents with all of you.
Correct.
But sometimes it's easier for them to volunteer funding you financially.
Correct.
So how does that take place?
Same way on our website, we have multiple ways to support us. We have an animal relief fund, so any donations towards that goes to the medical well-being of the animals. We have all sorts of different ways to volunteer. You can be a monthly volunteer, a one-time volunteer. We do in-memory donations, so if you want to memorialize a pet that passed away and do a donation in their honor, we have a donation wall in our building where we create little tags with their names on it. So we've got a multitude of ways to donate, and they're all on our website as well.
Okay. How about Casa?
And similarly, our website is the place to go to make a donation. We've made it easy. There's a donate button as well. It's been a challenging time for all of our organizations coming out of the pandemic. And so any resources, however small or however large they might be, will really impact our ability to serve more children in Washington County. And I think I speak for all the organizations. Like, it's been very challenging to raise funds, and so we appreciate any help that people give us.
Every donation matters. Any amount makes a difference.
And Genesis?
I echo, just go to our website and we have a donation button. And also, you know, if someone wants to make a $5 a month donation, a $10 a month donation, there's not a donation too small.
Nope.
So people can give donations, they can volunteer their time, and then there's this collaborative. They can learn more about your organizations through that as well.
Correct.
And I would imagine that during the year, each one of you have fundraisers
Oh, sure.
to help out to generate more money, more financial support for all of you as well.
Correct.
And that would be available on your respective websites as well.
Kelley just had hers this past weekend.
Okay.
And yeah, we do tons of events, and I think all of us do. So yeah, there's an event tab probably on all our websites listing our different upcoming events.
And they can also stop in personally at your respective organizations, and if they are not, if they're technologically challenged, I guess I want to say,
Absolutely.
then they can. There's also a personal part to that as well.
Yes.
Well, there's so much going on with all of you and your organizations, and how wonderful to have collaboration among entities like this. And we don't want to leave out the domestic services either,
Right.
because they're a part of this collaborative well. And I want to thank all three of you, as well as James, for being on the show today to explain to people and sharing your perspectives about the Compassion Care Initiative of Washington with our audience. It's incredible to know that there are so many people in need, whether they're elders, whether they're women, whether they're children, or just animals that maybe have been in abusive situations and are in need of support and assistance. All of you have demonstrated that a personal touch does indeed exist in our Washington County area and local communities. So those of us who are blessed to be fortunate enough to have time and talents and means to provide a helping hand to others through these organizations, we know that they can certainly use your help, whether it's by volunteering, whether it's by taking their education courses that they're offering to you, or whether it's by providing financial support. At this time, not only do I want to thank our guests today, but I want to thank Ryan Bonai, Kelley C. Sylvester of Peters Township, Robin Hodgen Frick, and the students at Peters Township High School media classes for all of your help in putting together this program. If you or your business or organization would like to become involved in the schedule of events for the Compassion Care Initiative, please check out their website, which we're giving to you, the CompassionCareInitiative.org. Thank you for viewing this special edition of The Personal Touch. And remember that you too can reach out and help someone in our local area. It's all about that personal touch.